Hey everybody, my name is Pluto, and welcome back to another commentated Super Mario 64 Kaizo ROM hack star. We have the first of two commentated videos that I'm doing on the newest Japanese Super Kaizo craze, Super Mario Invasion of Chuckya. This has been the hack I've been playing on and off, which is a little bit inaccurate to say because it's been the main thing I've been doing as before-wise. And this is the second hardest level in the hack by a pretty big margin. This is Tampering Distortion, or TD, except don't call it TD because there's already a TD that everyone knows. Red coins, 33 of them. Let's dive right into it. Right off the bat, you might notice that this level looks a little bit familiar if you've played any Kaizo hacks, because if you played any Kaizo hacks, you've probably played 74 Extreme Edition, which means that you've probably seen this level 30 million times. I certainly have. This level is kind of like a conglomerate of like every sphere. Like, you know how like in Yu-Gi-Oh! You get like the 5 pieces of Exodia and they form like the Exodia and then you obliterate your opponent? Well, in this you get the 6 rotations of Luminium Sphere and then you combine them and you obliterate my hopes and dreams. So, that's what this level basically is. It's actually my favorite level in the game so far. I don't know if I'll like Invasion of Chaos more or less, but it's actually a pretty solid level because it uses its theme very well, and it manages to create some interesting jumps. Now, of course, that is not the priority, or not the priority, and this is not like why this is a main channel video because it's so cool. It's a main channel video because it's pretty hard. I think the star is around TD Reds in difficulty. The other person who's completed it, Morningstorm, says it's like quite a bit hard in TD Reds, like around like an SNRC 13. I personally think it's a little bit easier than that, but you know, his opinion is his opinion, my opinion's my opinion. When more people complete it, we can see what the average trends towards, but for now, that's how I feel. Of course, I'm not very accurate at comparing things to TD Reds because I've done TD Reds so many times, but yeah. Yeah, I think it's a very hard star, regardless of who you agree with. You're still agreeing that this star is quite hard because tier 6 is no sludge. So this route that I use is my personal favorite one. I pretty much used it for the whole grind. I say grind in quotation marks because it's not really a grind, but yeah. These Fire Spitter QSLGs are pretty tricky. I ended up finding a pretty good strat for them that involved a little bit of counting, some good visual cues, and that made it pretty consistent, although I still died to it like once, which is kind of annoying. This path is easily the scariest one in the level in my opinion, so it's the one I opted to do first. After this path, I think the level gets a lot more consistent and comfortable, but this path is like very intimidating, just so you want to get it out of the way as soon as possible in my opinion. This long jump's a bit tight, so I opt to do a chain here because there's not really space to gain speed. And then here I just use a visual cue with the wall, so that way I can get this little reach around long jump. That way I can ledge grab here. Nothing too challenging. Now here's a pretty interesting thing I do. I get a running start here so I can long jump and ledge grab here. That's a bit of a different strat than what Morningstorm attempted. Morningstorm actually fell off the stage here and had to resort to a backup route. I don't like that at all, so I just decided to I ended up coming up with a different strategy which is more consistent, and it made it a lot easier to get up there and a lot less dangerous, so that's a pretty cool strategy in my opinion. And now we're on top of the level. This is like kind of like the top of Veneno, sorta, if you're familiar with that stage. We kind of have, I think it is actually all 6 rotations that are used here, so you get like a little bit of Veneno, a little bit of Crudello, a little bit of Baratroc, stuff like that. It's actually pretty interesting. I don't know if the original rotations are used, like Luminium and Ombru, but it'd be cool if they were. I honestly, I'm honestly not familiar enough. I think they might be used, but yeah. So yeah, go back here, very clearly the Veneno section of the stage. I've always called this section the elephant tree trunk. I'm not sure what made me call it that. I feel like I heard it in like a video from someone where they called it like the elephant tree trunk or something. Or not the elephant tree trunk, but like the elephant truck section. I have no idea why, but it's like that's just always stuck in my head, and that's always been what I called that section. So yeah, this introduction is kind of what makes the star difficult because it can be really hard to get attempts out of here. I actually got decently frustrated with the star, not because I don't like anything, but I think I was just in a bad mood when I attempted it, and having a lot of silly deaths put me in an even worse mood. like, I wasn't upset that I wasn't, like, getting far. I was upset at what I was dying to, because I felt like it was very silly. And in general, that's something that frustrates me a lot about Super Mario 64, is that while I do love the game, and it's very fun, I have an issue where a lot of the times, a lot of my deaths are just stupid shit. Like, I'll die to, like, slipping off a platform, you know, sliding off a slope for no reason, randomly getting a, you know, randomly using a bad angle for a jump, overthinking a jump, stuff like that, which is not very fun to die to. It kind of just creates a situation where it feels like I'm really good at the hard stuff, but I'm really bad at the easy stuff. And that can be frustrating at times. That can be really frustrating, and it bothers me, but that's something that I need to deal with. And today, unfortunately, or not today, but yesterday when I got the star, I was just not in a very good mood, so I kind of just like took out my anger a little bit. I wasn't like yelling or anything, I wasn't like super mad, but I was very clearly annoyed. And that's frustrating because I don't want to be annoyed playing this game, because I try to enjoy this game as much as possible, because it's a very fun game. Like, even though I've been playing a lot of I Wanna Be the Guy lately, Super Mario 64 is still my favorite game of all time. I think it has awesome movement, and I love ROM hacks of it. It's super cool. I'm not really talking too much about the gameplay, because I feel like there's not too many jumps that are really noteworthy. This slope section's a little bit awkward, so I do a little bit of pause buffering here to make it less awkward. The routing here is kind of interesting. Once you're on this little step here, you can just jump down here, and then on this. It's important to distinguish all the textures. That little like shiny texture is slippery slopes. You want to fall down there. And then the green is safe and the blue is quicksand. So, yeah, very similar level, a very similar kind of like mapping the shapes to what they are, I guess. I don't know how to explain it, but like in Crudello and like Veneno, a lot of like similar shapes will be like ground or quicksand, if that makes sense. Like these cones are all normal ground, so you can stand on them. So you kind of get used to that, and it's like it kind of just becomes a thing. I don't know really how to explain it, but like, yeah, you basically see like a lot of like similar shapes, and that marks like a certain type of ground, so you can kind of know what's coming up. It's very hard to explain what the hell I'm talking about. I'm pretty sure like half the people listen to that and like, what the fuck is she talking about? That's not even true, because there's literally quicksand spires in Veneno. And yeah, you're right. What I said was objectively not even that true. Maybe I should have thought more before saying it, but that's okay. We have a reclimb here. The reclimbs in this level are not too bad. This beginning is actually very consistent. There's a couple like scary things in it, but if you play it safe, you can do it pretty consistently. This long jump here, when I first went by here, I did like a pretty fast strat, but it's kind of risky, so I opted to do it this way instead, which is a little bit more consistent. Because instead of having to rely on getting good momentum, you can simply just do a chain long jump. It's very tricky to get long jumps off these slopes because of the way speed works. When you're running up a slope, your speed is actually very slow. So generally, if you want to get a long jump off a slope, what you should do is you should build up speed in the air, so that way as soon as you land, boom, long jump. And that's actually a very good way to long jump on a slope that you're moving upwards. It obviously doesn't work on some slopes, but here the slopes are not too steep. So it actually works pretty well, and it's like a very good strat that you should pick up on. Little nuances in the movement like that are very interesting to me. It's the kind of thing that makes me think like Kaizo stuff and speedrunning is so interesting in this game. Because it's like those little things that you don't really pick up on that aren't really like super obvious, that like when you look at them it's like it makes sense, but it's like it's something that you don't really see as a beginner player. And it's, you know, when you pick up on a lot of those little nuances, it's really fun not only to do them yourself, but also to tell them to other people and teach them to other people. That jump over there was kind of scary. I had to slide on the cork box for a while so I could get enough speed to make the dive there. Not too bad though. And these little differently colored green things that look like limes. Well, they don't look like limes, but they're lime colored. You can just stand on them, which is pretty nice. Then you jump off here. But yeah, I love the little nuances in Super Mario 64. I think it's a super interesting game. And yeah, I think this level shows off some pretty interesting stuff. Not like super interesting, like it's not like super like experimental or like unique jumps, but I think like the actual like geometry of the level is very unique, and that's how I feel about sphere levels in general. And while I think this normally makes them kind of annoying, I think in this case it's interesting because I feel like it takes a lot of the good parts of the spheres without the parts that I don't really care for, and it actually makes for a very solid level. If I'm being entirely honest, I'm not a big fan of this hack. I think this hack is kind of boring. I think it lacks a lot of interesting jumps. While the level structures and ideas for themes are pretty good, I think on an individual jump basis, This game is a little bit weaker than a hack like IOF or SNR, but I do respect this game and what it is, and I certainly respect this because I'm pretty sure this is I believe Kogahei made this. I believe this is his first hack, and for a first hack, this is like insanely impressive. Like, very, very good job on making this. Like, it's pretty amazing. But at the same time, I definitely think he has room to grow as a creator, and I want to be, I guess, open about that, because I think it's good to, you know, encourage people to improve in places where you think they can, and, you know, sharpen their style. And I think that's the number one thing that Kogahei can improve on, is that just like a little bit stronger level design and stronger jumps in his levels, because a lot of the levels in this game are quite forgettable, to be honest. But this one is pretty solid. So yeah, after this we're done with the reclimbs. Actually, no, we're not. There's one more reclimb. I'm silly. I'm forgetful. I thought we already did the last reclimb, and that's why I'm like, oh, it's the last reclimb, because I've been watching the segment level forever. But nope, there's one more. There's always one more reclimb, because, you know, you need more reclimbs, you know. And every level you make should have at least 5 reclimbs. Unfortunately, this level only has like 2, so it doesn't meet that quota. But well, actually, it has 3. Yeah, it has 3. Yeah, so it only has 3 reclimbs. So we're kind of short on the 5 reclimb quota that we need to make a good level, but that's okay. By the way, I didn't mention it, but the dark blue texture is death floor, so if you stand above that, you die. Unless you're really high above that, which is a kind of fun fact. If you're curious, my PB before getting the star was 18 out of 33. This star took me an hour of attempts and about an hour of learning. I didn't really do practice outside of learning, but obviously I did learn the star with save states and go through it, but I didn't really like sit down and practice a segment. So it took like 2 hours in total, which is very good for a star of this difficulty. It's nice to see that I'm, you know, pretty consistent at getting these hard stars. It feels good. It's very satisfying. I'm very proud of myself, especially because I haven't done like a hard star in quite a while. I've been playing a lot of I Want to Be the Guy fan games, I've been preparing for Fan Game Marathon, and in general, this hack, not being a big fan of this hack, has made me a bit demotivated. But I want to get back into Mario 64 more. I want to play some of the new stuff. Of course, there's Dream Edition on the table, Final Tragedy Reds, but there's also stuff like E6 I want to go back to and try to do C14 in that game. There's also Victory Quest, I believe it's called, that came out. That seems cool. And there's also some cool casual hacks that came out. One of the big ones is Beyond the Cursed Mirror. That hack is totally awesome, by the way. I would totally recommend you play that. Not a Kaizo hack at all, it's a very casual hack, but it's a very, very good hack, and I would totally recommend it. Yeah, I like getting myself back into Mario 64 is been very fun, you know. Because sometimes you just need a break. Sometimes you're just not motivated to play the game. And when I've been playing one game essentially for 4 years, yeah, it's easy to feel that way. Because I've basically never done that before in my life. But yeah, it's a fun game. Now you might be wondering why I'm paused here. The reason is because I thought I forgot a red coin. Specifically, I thought I forgot the little alcove. I think it's red coin number 19. That's the one I thought I forgot. So, yeah, I stopped there, but then I remembered, yeah, no, we're good. I did get the red coin. Alright, so beyond this point, now we can finally look at the sections levels, which are, the section level which is not the intro. In theory, there wouldn't be that much left, but you might notice we're only half of the stage. That's because I made a blunder, but that's okay. We'll get to my big blunder when we get to my big blunder. For now, let's just look at my non-blunders. So similar to Crudello, it's like you either go forward to like the MVP area, which doesn't exist in this game, or you go to like the reclimb area. So I did the reclimb route first, and now we're gonna go across the level. Here we have the little bookshelf thing that I always like talking about. I always call this thing the bookshelf. I don't know if that name ever caught on though. I don't know how many people call it that, but I always call these the bookshelf. I think some people just call them Veneno side flips because they're mostly known in Veneno, but yeah. This red coin's a little bit sketchy. There I did a wall kick, which I had to react to. That was not planned, I was planning to ledge grab. But then there I was kind of scared because I never really had a strat for getting out of here for some reason. I probably should have made one because that would have been smart, but you know, you don't need a strategy when you're doing a star that's like TD Red's difficulty, honestly. You can just do whatever you want and get the star anyways, and, you know. Anyway, speaking of Veneno side flips, here's me struggling to do one for like a year. I kept hitting my head on the fucking ceiling and ledge grabbing. I'm quite lucky that I kept ledge grabbing though, because it's very easy to hit your head on the ceiling and miss the ledge grab, so you drop one layer, which would have been fine there, but if I did it again, then I would have fallen to the bottom. That dip's kind of sketchy. For a while, we did like a super horrible turnaround thing until Thanatos in chat suggested the dive, which I just didn't think of ever. So shoutouts to him, because otherwise we would have been doing a really stupid strat there. That is really dumb and stupid. Speaking of kind of silly things, there's this red coin, which is kind of goofy. The safest way I could get it was a ledge grab, but that's scary. But it's not so bad. It's just a very thin platform. But if you ledge grab, it kind of negates that. Have to kick up this thing safely. Thankfully, you can stand on the ledges here. And now we have some flip switches in our sphere level. Extremely rare, never done before. And with this, we can get our 25th red, which will take us out of the negatives. And now we just need 8 more. It's kind of funny how many E4 references are in this level. One of the stars is like a direct reference to the eyeball star in Crudeli. And then there's also 33 red coins, which is a reference to Venena in E4. Very much takes me back to beating E4. It's like when I beat E4, it was a very fun story because that was like a few days before KBRX came out. And I remember thinking, oh, I gotta beat E4 so quickly, because if I don't beat Venena in time, then KBRX is gonna come out and I'm gonna still be on E4 and I'm gonna look like a dipshit. Play E4 when there's a new high pack, but then I fucking beat Venena incredibly quickly. And then I was able to play KBRX, which KBRX coming out was like one of my favorite events in this community because it was genuinely just so fun. It was like great. These slopes are easier than they look, I think, because they're not really slippery at all, so you actually have a lot of time to get up here. Now here's an area of the level I was actually kind of anxious about. It's like this little secrets area off to the side. There's a red coin in the middle here with a Snuffit guarding it. It's a little bit awkward, I guess. Like, the movements here are kind of weird. I opted to not bother killing the Snuffit because I've been destroyed too many times by hitting a Snuffit's body when you try to hit it from under or from the top. So I just opted to sneak in the red coin, which surprisingly worked quite well. And this jump back is kind of sketchy because I thought about doing a chain long jump here, but I decided against it because I realized that I feel like it wasn't going to make it and I had never done it in practice, so I just did the sketchy strat of doing a 90-degree turn. That is not very comfortable, but it's like the one thing that I thought I could do. So now we're gonna come up here. There's a red coin in this little pocket here. Not really a pocket, it's out completely exposed. Most pockets are not completely exposed. Then we have this little amp bully here. Some of the amps in this level can be kind of assholes. The worst one is during that one, that one section after the sideways pillar. There's an amp where if it hits you, it down warps you into quicksand below. That one's really dangerous. I have to kill this eyeball here because I had some instances where when trying to climb back up, he was looking at me. So I decided that killing him was the safer strategy. Here I spent some time because I couldn't remember exactly where the green spire was, so I wanted to look around to see where it is. It's right there. Here's another jump that's kind of sketchy. Bit of a big double jump there to get on that little cone. And that's why I killed the eyeball, so that way he wouldn't be looking at me when I tried to do the triple jump wall kick. You come up here. This little slope area is kind of funny. See, we did a lot of the stuff that's like unique to reds at the very start of the attempt, so now this is just like the normal level. Like, pretty much all of this is stuff that like if you have the other stars, you've done like a million times. Come up here. very chill section for a little bit. We just have easy slope jumps. Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned it exactly, but this level has a very hard beginning, but after the beginning, it's very chill. There's a lot more calm jumps. You're kind of just relaxing for a little bit. This walkway section's a little bit sketchy, but it's really not so bad. Here we have another asshole amp coming up. You have to get the red coin in the slope, but of course there's an amp right there. So I opted to just embrace the amp and let him shock me when I was at the top of the slope. Which, maybe not the safest strategy, but considering the slope is again not slippery, it ended up not being the worst thing in the world. Here's another section that scares the shit out of me. I actually did a pretty bad pause buffer here, right here. I don't really pause buffer that, so I probably shouldn't have done it. It just made it scarier for no reason. Very unnecessary pause buffer. $31 red coins. Okay, so I mentioned like 6 minutes ago or something, or actually a little bit longer, that I made a pretty egregious blunder near the end of this, not near the end of this level, but in the level in general. And here's the blunder coming up. I got so scared by that Snuffit, I just jumped off the level. like no question about it, I just fucking jumped off the level because I was scared of the Snuffit. That was not a very good decision. I could have done like a million things to avoid that. I could have baited the Snuffit and then side flipped out. I could have done literally anything else and that would have been fine. I honestly probably could have just stood there and just dodged the Snuffit bullets. Instead I decided to pick the worst option, which is just fucking jump off the level. Never do this. Never ever do this. That is not good. So yeah, remember how I mentioned that every good level has 5 reclimbs? Well, this level only had 3, so I decided to give it like some extra bonus, some universal basic income, and I gave it a 4th reclimb. Except this one's the second half of the level, so yeah. So you're welcome, Kokahei. I gave your level a nice boost to its economy by giving it an extra fucking reclimb like an idiot. Oh my god. I'm so mad at myself for that mistake. It's so stupid. Like, it literally didn't matter. I get the start of this attempt. Like, there was literally no consequence of that. It didn't matter. All it did was just make the attempt 5 minutes longer for no reason. Because I'm such a fucking dumbass. It was so stupid. But, you know, it's funny, I think. It's somewhat funny. It's just like, God. I'm mostly just happy that I didn't die to it, because it's like, God, it's such a goofy mistake. It's literally just being so petrified of a Snuffit that you just let it bully you off the entire stage. It's so bad. But yeah, you've seen this before, you know what's happening. It's the same level we've already seen. We're just doing it again. There's not really much to commentate on. So yeah, it's overall a pretty cool star. I'm pretty happy to have it. All in all, I would say like this hack. The main reason why I continue this hack, even though I clearly didn't like it that much, like I did like it to some degree, but you know I began disliking it a little bit. Like I'm very like neutral towards it now. The reason I continued was largely because I wanted to see what these extra levels were like. I wanted to see if they made the experience worth it. And I can at the very least say very comfortably that even if I absolutely hate Invasion of Chaos and don't do it or whatever, this level made it worth it. Is it one of the best levels I've ever played? No, not really. There's better Kaizo levels I've played. But is it a very good Kaizo level that was very fun and satisfying to complete? Yeah, it was. I think it's just good. That's really just all. It's good. It was enough to make me feel like the work it took to get here was worth it. And that's really all that matters to me. That's all I care about. I'm just happy that I feel like I got something out of this game. Even if it's just like this small little thing. It's a nice feeling. It's a nice feeling because it's like, big Kaizo hacks like this can be very big time investments, and that's something that I think turns off a lot of people, is like you have to put so many hours into a game like this, even if it's not that hard, to beat it. So, it can be very difficult to go through with that and put in that time, especially for a game like this, which is a Super Kaizo game, even if it's only really Super Kaizo in the last 2 levels, and this level's not even a Super Kaizo level in my opinion. But yeah, you know, it's to me, it's like it just really needs like one level, and I'll say it's worth it because 20 mediocre levels is just 20 mediocre levels. You know, that sucks. Even if I absolutely hated like 2 of them, like C13 and B3, I really didn't like in this game. That's fine, you know, because it's like if I just get one good level out of it, I think I'll take away that one good level more than I take away all the levels I don't like, and I think that's a healthy thing to do. Alright, so now we're actually at the new content. You jump off here. The slope cancels your fall damage, so you know you can just do this. Slopes actually do cancel all your fall damage, but not all your fall damage, but they cancel fall damage that isn't heavy fall damage. So if you're going to take 4 damage from a fall, then a slope isn't going to cancel that. But if it's only 2, then you won't take fall damage, which is actually a really cool piece of information. That's very useful. There was another part of this level where it was relevant. Those cork boxes, by the way, take me back to grinding TICB1. The ending of that level is so goofy. It was so fucking hard, man. Very funny. Head up here. You got a little sneak peek of the final red coin. I get past the amp here and then climb up here. Do a little turnaround, so that way I can butt slide. And now we just need to dodge the Snuffit here, which is a bit scary. There's a couple scary things about this ending. You can actually go all the way up the stage to do this slightly safer, but I didn't want to bother with that. So we do the risky strategy, which honestly isn't that risky, it's just kind of scary. Come over here, and you just drop down here. Now here I actually made a bit of a mistake. I did this in a way that fucks up the camera. But thankfully I could just push A at a random time and that would line up the jump because it's like perfectly lined up. And here you just jump off the slope and hold down left. And that puts you right here, and that's right where the star spawns. And yeah, enjoy my reaction. Bye bye. Yeah, that works. Cool. Yeah, pretty tough. Pretty tough. Pretty tough. That's a main channel video. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Very good.